Here's a top 5 of news and notes that you should know from OTAs. Welcome back to the Standard Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Chris. Let's get into it. We got a top 5 short episode. Before we begin, don't forget, like, subscribe, hit the notification button to stay up to date for all of our new episodes that we drop, all of our shorts. As we approach the fantasy football season, you're going to really need to know some of the high-value players. Everyone knows about the Bijans, the Breece Halls, the Christian McCaffreys. We're going to go in-depth. We're going to start breaking down divisions and pretty soon here and the new players on each of these teams and who you can get at a steal. Before we begin, let's just kind of get into some of the nitty-gritties of news that happened. T. Higgins officially signed his franchise tag. I think this is pretty significant. We all thought that he was going to get traded, dealt to some team that need a wide receiver. But at this point, I don't think that's happening. I think that they're going to play out this year with him, and then probably he's going to sign a free agency deal next year. I can't see them trying to franchise tag him 2 years in a row, not at the wide receiver market, especially that it's going to get reset again. Justin Jefferson just reset the market. Jahmyr Chase is probably going to get a big deal. They're not going to re-sign T. Higgins to a huge deal. And they're probably not going to end up franchise tagging him. But what this means for the rest of the Cincinnati wide receiver room, we thought Jermaine Burton was going to have a big role, Andre Ishavash. But now it kind of looks like T. Higgins is going to still be the number 2 there. So we're still looking for a reliant number 3 option, which I still think Ishavash or Jermaine Burton could be that guy. Trent Irwin, another guy. Charlie Jones, another guy. Well, let's see who kind of emerges into that number 3 role. I know everyone's on Jermaine Burton, but I got to see that there's some guys already there in that system that know it. Is Burton really going to take a big step in? Maybe they drafted Burton and in anticipating that T. Higgins was going to hold out or not sign. But I think Burton is a great dynasty pickup. But I don't know about a redraft league this year for having him. There's some other guys that I like. I mean, Jahmyr Chase and T. Higgins is no longer going to be kind of that 1A or 1B with Chase. I think that if you're overdrafting him, you're doing yourself a disservice. There's a lot of value on the board, especially in the second and third round as you look at these drafts. And I think you can go get another wide receiver later on. I've been really loving to hit the wide receiver in the 4th to 7th round. There's a lot of great mid-tier guys there that are slipping in drafts. I mean, you see Cooper Kupp going into the 3rd round, and I think that is a huge mistake for a lot of people. I'm not saying he's going to have a better season than Puka, but he's still going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. I mean, Devonta Smith, again, year after year, the guy just catches 1,000 balls, is a volume receiver there. I really like him, and you can go get him a little bit later instead of drafting T. Higgins where the value is. So let's go into some top 5 news reports that have come out. So it's going to be widely running back focused here. The first being Bijan Robinson. So Bijan Robinson, the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, has really come out and said, get this guy the ball often. I think Tyler Algier is still a guy that I'm drafting in every draft later on that I can. I still think he's going to play a role there, but now we're going to see Bijan in year 2 really get a hold of this offense, be in a better overall offense. Yeah, they might still force the ball through him, which is perfectly fine, and I like that with Kirk Cousins. But it's going to take a lot of pressure off of the running game because you're actually going to have some deep threats. You're actually going to have a quarterback that is able to stretch the ball downfield, which would take a lot of pressure off of Bijan. It's the same reason why everyone was we love Breece Hall. Everyone loves Breece Hall, but with a competent quarterback that's able to stretch the field, it takes so much pressure off the run game. Another reason why Derrick Henry, when we can kind of go on and on for these guys that went to better places, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, all these running backs went to a better scenario because of that reason, because they're no longer going to face 8-man boxes. I think Bijan's going to be another recipient of that. I anticipate him vying for a top 3 running back spot, in fantasy football. I think McCaffrey is the king of the hill at this point, and I don't think that there's anyone close that really can take that next hurdle. Again, we kind of went into this last year with Algier. Like, he's still a young guy. He got drafted the year before Bijan. He was really efficient that year, and was facing stacked boxes as well because that offense really couldn't stretch the field. Algier is still going to be a factor in this offense. It's just Bijan's going to be the main focal point. It's, again, going into our second point here. So number 2 on this list is going to go into Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Again, we're going to top 2. We're going to focus on second-year running backs, probably top 3 actually. But the Jahmyr Gibbs David Montgomery split, I think, is going to normalize a little bit better than what we saw at the end of last year. I think is what we're going to continue to see the rest of this year, which is going to bode well for Jahmyr Gibbs and Jahmyr Gibbs owners. I know he's getting taken in the first round in some best ball drafts. I think he's right around the tail end of the first round, beginning of the second round is where his value is being, or his ADP is being linked to. I think this is a good spot for him. I still think Montgomery is going to be a huge factor in this offense. I really do. Like, I don't think Gibbs is going to take as much of a big step into year 2 as Bijan is, because he's not the focal point. You look at the way the Lions are set up with Laporta, with Amon-Ra St. Brown. They have 2 running backs that are really efficient. I mean, David Montgomery didn't look like a slouch last year. He wasn't just holding the seat warm until Jahmyr Gibbs was ready. Like, he went out there and balled. So, like, I love getting some David Montgomery this year. Again, if it's between me, like, that's why I don't have a lot of shares on a lot of my teams that I've drafted so far. I don't have a lot of shares of Bijan. I don't have a lot of shares of Jahmyr Gibbs. However, I do have a lot of shares in David Montgomery and Tyler Algier. The value there is just so much better when you go get David Montgomery in the 6th or 7th round and you get Tyler Algier in the 11th or 12th. I mean, that value is awesome, because if something did happen to those starting running backs, those guys come in and take a volume, a huge workload. And they're going to be involved in the offenses, whether Bijan and Gibbs are hurt or not. Like, Montgomery's still going to be a factor there. So there's another reason, like, you got to love the value of David Montgomery. However, Gibbs is going to be much more in a 50-50 split. He was a receiving master last year. We saw his explosiveness, and especially on swing passes, screen passes. The way they utilized him was so good. I think we actually might see a lot more formations with Gibbs and David Montgomery on the field at the same time this year, which I think is going to be good. There's a lot of trick plays that they can run. Montgomery knows how to run a wildcat. Goff can come off the field or split out with both those guys there. There's some interesting things that they can do. I still think Montgomery is going to be a touchdown machine, but in terms of PPR format, you got to love Gibbs. I think his value should be right there. Early second round. It's hard for me to take him late first round because there's so many good wide receivers there. And again, I'd rather wait and hit some running backs later on when you can go and get, Garrett Wilson's there, Marvin Harrison Jr. is there. A.J. Brown I've seen kind of slip into that tail end range, beginning at range of the second round. So that's kind of my sweet spot for drafting this year is, the 10th spot to the 12th spot. I love being 10, 11, 12, just because whatever value is dropping, I can go and get that. But I still think, you're seeing Bijan. I think Brees and Christian McCaffrey are the clear, like, no-brainer. These are the first-round running backs, right? And then you have Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs, who I think can make an argument there. But I still think they're kind of in the same tier, like, as Jonathan Taylor. I think Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry and Saquon are going to have huge years this year too. And would you, if you're in the middle of the first round, if you're picking like 6, let's say you're picking 7 through 9, which is kind of where you're looking to get, like, that's kind of where Bijan's going. Would you rather get him in the first round or get Justin Jefferson or Puka or A.J. Brown, I've seen Devontae Adams go in the second round too. So, you can get Bijan, Devontae Adams, but I probably would rather have Justin Jefferson and Jonathan Taylor in the second round, at that same kind of pick range. So the third piece of this, the third topic that I want to talk about is Jaleel McLaughlin. I think there's a lot. We should know more clarification in the next couple weeks, but it looks as if Javonte Williams might be on his way out the door, which is fine because he's going to go and probably sign with Dallas, which is a great spot for him. Dallas needs another running back there. I think that there's a lot of teams that could use a running back like him. But that being said, Jaleel McLaughlin has kind of stole the show at the running back position in Denver. I think he's in for another big year. We saw him at times just being like a little scat back out there. He has explosive ability. I think that Sean Payton likes to use guys like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he makes a huge fantasy impact. And right now, Jaleel McLaughlin is going, I think, in the 11th or 12th round. I have a lot of share in all my best ball drafts. I think there's only one team that I've drafted so far that doesn't have Jaleel McLaughlin on it in a best ball, not counting the ones I've done with Jono on this show. But I love me some Jaleel McLaughlin. Him and Keaton Mitchell are guys I can't stay away from. But I absolutely love those. I love McLaughlin. I think his ability, he was really efficient last year. I think as a spell back, they have some other guys there. Now, if it was me, I think Samaje Perine is probably going to be the odd man out. I think they're going to try to work something in with Javonte Williams, but he looked inefficient at times last year. He was coming off an ACL. We might see a huge improvement going into this year, but even if he does get cut and he is not brought back, I still think he's going to land in a really good landing spot. I know a lot of people are talking about the Bears and what they're going to do with their running back room, how one of those guys are going to get cut. I still think that might happen. Khalil Herbert might be the odd man out there, and he might go to another team. There's a lot of teams in need of running backs right now, and either one of those guys would be great one-year replacements while they kind of work some guys or get someone in the draft next year. But those would be really good landing spots. Anyone who goes to Dallas this year is going to have a huge workload. I don't think Zeke is going to handle all of it. Neither is Rico Dowdle. So you bring in a guy like Javonte Williams, like he's going to be instant RB1 in that room, or Khalil Herbert might be an instant RB1 in that room, which is great for them. So especially a lot of these drafts, like I think there's a team that I have Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin. Like if that scenario ends up happening, like I just hit a home run on both sides, right? So I'm going to get a guy that's going to be now a starting running back, and now I'm getting a guy that was a backup that's being elevated to a starting running back, which is a really good. This is why drafting early is sometimes good and sometimes bad. You lose the chance of like season-ending injury early on in the offseason, but you do get these value guys before a lot of these moves are made, which is a huge advantage. I mean, some of the teams that you can go and put together are really stacked with talent up at top. So the fourth thing, and this is like waking up every morning and hearing these freaking updates and watching like ESPN or any one of these other major sports media companies talk about where is Aaron Rodgers, and they're making a big deal about where's Aaron Rodgers on the New York Jets, and like I'm a New York Jets fan, as we kind of established at this point. I don't give a crap where he is. Let him go on some freaking trip. It was pre-planned. The team knew about it. Like I don't know why people are making a big deal about it. He's a 40-year-old quarterback that doesn't need OTAs and mini camps to get right. Like he's been rehabbing for close to 10 months. He's gonna be just fine going into season, and him missing 2 days when he goes on a pre-planned vacation that he made during his rehab, and then they moved the dates of all the mini camps. Like he's not gonna just realign that stuff. I mean, there's been a lot of work. I think it's really important for Tyrod to get reps there. I'm not worried about Aaron Rodgers or what's happening with the New York Jets or the culture that's happening there. Like they're gonna be fine. He's a pro, and the more hate that comes his way, the more I'm excited about watching him play this year. I'm excited as a Jets fan because if you've seen throughout his career what he's done with all this negative talk around him, every time people doubt him, every time people go and say he can't do something, he goes out there and either wins an MVP or just lights up in terms of statistics. And I expect that from him this year. I expect a lot of what we talked about going into last season before the injury. I expect that now to happen this year. Now he has more weapons around him. Now he has better weapons around him. I think the Jets as a whole, they're going to shift their running or their offense to being more of a running focus. That's why I love Braylon Allen this year. I absolutely love Breece Hall this year. But I still think guys like Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams have enough threat downfield where you cannot stack the box against these guys. And you have to drop into coverage. And now you're leaving a smart quarterback that is going to be able to command the offense, that can recognize when they have those opportunities to be able to run. I mean, if you look at, I was talking to Jono about this, and if you look at the statistics going back to like early on when A.J. Dillon came into the team with the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Jones is there, and look at both of them, the way they were successful. I think Braylon Allen and Breece Hall are going to have very similar seasons, except I think Breece Hall is a better, more dynamic running back than Aaron Jones ever was or ever will be. And Braylon Allen is an absolute house at running back. I think this is going to be one of the most exciting offenses to watch this year if Rodgers stays healthy. The offensive line is rebuilt with a lot of veteran presence on it, a lot of talent, and they're young. So they have a good combination of veteran talent and youth at the offensive line, and they're really good. Elijah Vera-Tucker comes back healthy this year. He's going to be fantastic. Joe Tippmann moving back to his position. He wasn't playing center last year. This year he's going to play more center. It's going to be great. Tyron Smith. This team, I'm really excited about this offensive line group. It's something that, as a Jets fan, I've been harping on for a number of years. Is like, I get the rebuild, I get getting Sauce and Garrett. Those are huge pieces, but year after year, we needed to rebuild that offensive line. When you think back at the years that the Jets were successful, is when they had stout offensive lines. When you had DeBrickashaw and Mangold, when you had Alan Faneca and Kevin Mawai on those lines, like the center position is so undervalued or underrated. Everyone talks about tackle. It's why Tyler Linderbaum, a couple years ago when he was coming in, I was really excited about the Jets having the opportunity to trade back into the first round. They did it with Jermaine Johnson later on in the draft, but I wanted them to move up a couple more picks and get Tyler Linderbaum because I think he is a fantastic center. They end up waiting a year and getting Joe Tippmann last year to continue this offensive line rebuild, and I think we're at that time right now where everything's really starting to click. On top of that, this defense is giving me absolute just filth. It's going to be disgusting. You look at Pro Bowlers at every level, multiple linebackers that are going to be all pros. The line is absolutely stacked. The secondary is really good, led by Sauce and DJ. I'm really excited about watching the Jets this year. The last and final point I want to bring up is on the New York Giants. We kind of, I think a lot of people have been knocking on them, with them losing players, Saquon leaving the team. The defense was good last year. They weren't excellent. They weren't a top 5 defense, but they were good enough, and they were good enough to keep them in games. That offense was just absolutely atrocious. You lose DJ for the entire year. Not that he was playing well before that, but now they're starting to get some weapons. I mean, they lose Darren Waller. I mean, everything is pointing towards like the Giants having a 4 or 5 win season. And I honestly, I still think like their over under for me is going to be 5 wins, but I think they're going to be a lot more competitive in those 5 wins. I still think they need to get more weapons for DJ, but the guy I want to focus on is Devin Singletary here. I think wherever he has gone, he's been fantasy relevant. I mean, if you look back, the previous 2 years ago and then 3 years ago when he was with the Buffalo Bills, it's a very similar style offense. Obviously, Brian Daboll coming over from Buffalo. Singletary is familiar with the style that they want to kind of run there. DJ is kind of a worse version of Josh Allen, if you will. So I think that there's a lot of similarities there. He's a mobile quarterback, but likes to throw the ball and likes to chuck it deep. Now you have Malik Neighbors on the outside, where it's going to at least help him. They have a premier receiver on the outside now for DJ. But Singletary was really efficient in those years. I know last year, he took kind of a step back, but it was a struggle for the Houston to run the ball. And they were really efficient passing the ball. They were more on a 3 wide sets and spraying the ball out. They had some injuries on the offensive line. I don't think that there's a huge, but you saw a couple games last year where Devin Singletary was a week winner at the position for where he was. Dameon Pierce was really inefficient last year. He looked terrible last year. Maybe a bounce back for him, but we're talking about the Giants here. Singletary, I think, is going to be in for not only the bulk of the workload here, but I think that he is going to sneakily be a top 15 running back. I think that he's going to be right on the edge there. I think like he's going to be 15, in the 15. Let me say 15 to 17 range is where I think he's going to kind of end up. I think he has opportunity to score touchdowns. I think he has volume opportunity. There's really nobody that I know. Everyone's talking about Tracy Jr., Eric Gray, but really, they're really not they're premier running backs that people went and drafted. They weren't highly successful in college. I don't think that they're going to come into an offense, and they'll be taking snaps here or there, but are they going to take a significant third down workload away from Singletary? Are they going to split series with him? I don't think so. I think it really might be, a 70% workload share, but in terms of volume, like where you're drafting Singletary is so far down from, again, we talked earlier about Jahmyr Gibbs being taken at the end of the first round, and he's probably only going to command 50% of the workload there. You're talking about a guy that's probably going to command 70% of the workload, and he's going 5-6 rounds later than that. I mean, that's value there. We've always talked about it here on the podcast, is volume is king. And when you get guys that have a heavy volume, I don't really care about their explosive ability because they're going to have opportunity when they're on the field for 80% of the snaps. I mean, perfect example of this is Jerome Ford last year. I don't think Jerome Ford is significantly talented. I think that last year, early on, Nick Chubb goes down and there's nobody there. Kareem Hunt wasn't there yet. They had Pierre Strong. They really didn't have any guys step up. So it became the Jerome Ford show. And Jerome Ford was taking 80% of the snaps in those games. And, when you get that kind of volume, good things happen. So I think Singletary is in a very, very similar role. He's one of my guys that I'm sneakily drafting. I'm looking for later on, if you're going for kind of a later round running back, you get a hero running back and you're looking for some later guys to stack up. I think Singletary is a guy that I think is being undervalued right now. But that's, I told you guys nice and quick. Again, don't forget, like and subscribe. Hit that notification button to stay up to date on everything. Jono and I are both traveling this week, so we're going to try to pump out as much content as we possibly can. I wanted to get something out for this week early on, and we'll be back at it next week. The next couple of weeks, we're going to really start breaking down those division teams and the new faces, new places. We'll start with some rankings on these teams, but it's getting hot right now. We're getting into it. I'm really excited. This is the prime time in fantasy football, is getting right into draft season, and we're about a month away from getting into heavy draft season. I know a lot of the best ball is happening right now. Dynasties just happened right now. We're around that season, but redraft is where it's all about, right? And we're getting into that season right now. And I'm really excited. Once mini camps finish up, we're going to have a lot more clarity on a lot more of these position battles that we've been talking about. Did a short this week on some wide receiver and running back rooms. You should absolutely be keeping your eyes on those teams during mini camps to see who's kind of leading the repetitions and what repetitions they're playing, whether they're with first team, rookie squad. We'll kind of get into some other news and notes on some of the rookie quarterbacks that are really, really struggling this season. I said it early on, Jaden Daniels is going to be the best rookie quarterback, and it's looking that way, looking like he might be the only rookie quarterback. But until next time, happy Father's Day to everyone out there.